Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to our first Facebook Live here with Meagan Duhamel. I'm Julia Hamer, so I'm going to be your host for the evening. I'm a neuroscientist, a keynote speaker, and a former Team Canada beach volleyball athlete. And tonight we're going to have an awesome conversation about health, lifestyle, and whether you're a full-time athlete or you're a fitness buff. There's a lot of you in Toronto, or you're just looking to learn about gaining a little bit more energy or vitality in your life. Meagan's going to be your expert. And if you don't know who Meagan is, you should if you are any type of Canadian fan in sport. She is a 7-time Canadian champion, 2-time world champion, 3-time gold, 3-time Olympic medalist, a gold, a bronze, a silver. She's been on all parts of the podium, and she's just flown in for this talk today. So we're so lucky to have her. And most importantly, she's a graduate from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. So welcome, Meagan.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me. I am a holistic nutritionist consultant, and I did get my degree with the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition back in 2012.
Way back, playback,
yeah,
amazing.
Since then I've been focused on those Olympics and those results that you just said, but now I'm coming back, diving back into the nutrition world where I'd like to spend more time in the future.
Awesome. So for most people that go to school, I think they just focus on school, they study, they get their degree. But now you're saying you went here in 2012, but you were also winning a medal a couple years later and then another 6 years later. How are you managing training and going to school? How did that work? That sounds like an impossible task.
Well, I do like to try to create balance in my life in every aspect, and I didn't want my life to ever become one-dimensionally about skating and about sport and about winning at all costs, like competitive athletes sometimes can get on that path. Sure. In 2010, I wasn't sure where my skating future was going or what skating had in store for me anymore, and I had recently become a vegan and started becoming passionate about food and healthy living and a holistic lifestyle and natural health. And I had heard about this program, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to check that out. I lived in Montreal, so unfortunately I wasn't able to attend classes. I did it all through correspondence. Wow. I finished the program in 2012 or maybe early 2013, but I'm pretty sure it was 2012. And you know, I was so passionate about it. I loved learning. I loved reading my books and researching and learning about different areas of the world and different types of nutrition and in different avenues from children to elderly to sports nutrition. Wow. And it was a big passion of mine, and I've continued to kind of keep myself informed and read up on it a little bit. But obviously since 2012, my focus has been at the ice rink and at the Olympics and
doing
winning
pretty good. Yeah, I think a gold medal, that's it's usually up there. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah,
but
amazing.
Now I'm retired, so I need something to do for the rest of my life.
And now you're retired.
I'd like to dive back into nutrition.
Full-time TV show. Here we go. Let's get it started. So going back, so you're talking about that you were a vegan. So were you a vegan like spontaneously? Were you always a vegan? I know some people. I have a cousin who's 4 years old and declares that she's a vegan and vegetarian. I'm like, you don't know what meat is. You don't know, like you barely speak. So how long have you been a vegan for?
Well, good for her, first of all. I mean, I support that.
Yeah, she's a smart cookie. So.
You know, I grew up eating meat and potatoes and drinking milk and, you know, like the typical American Canadian diet, I guess. But I read a book one night in 2008, just completely spontaneously. It was just a silly book called Skinny Bitch. It was written by two funny girls, and I looked at the cover and it seemed humorous. And it wasn't just about a vegan diet, it was about a healthy diet, cutting out sugars, cutting out sodas, caffeine, and animal products, in particular meat and dairy. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. I've never heard of what a vegan is. Maybe I should read that.
How old were you when this was happening, or what year was this?
This was in 2008.
2008.
And I'm born in 1985, so like 22.
And the math contest. Here we go, yeah.
Early 20s.
Okay, early 20s.
And, you know, I never had even known what a vegan was. I'd heard about vegetarians before. I didn't have a great interest in eating meat. I was pretty much force-fed meat my entire life.
Protein, athlete.
Yeah, my dad was like, you drink that 3 glasses of 2% milk every day, and we'd order pizza and drink our 2% milk with dinner because I needed to have my calcium.
Yeah.
And
hashtag got milk. That was trending, I think, in 2008. If there was a hashtag trending, yeah.
And, you know, I was just like, this seems like an adventure, and this seems interesting. And when I do stuff, I go all out. There's no holding back. So when I went to bed that night, I said, you know what? Tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm going to be a vegan.
Wow. How'd your dad feel about that and no more 2% milk?
Yeah, I know. He doesn't drink 2% milk either anymore.
Oh, okay.
He's, you know, working his way down. But,
nice.
It was a pretty easy decision in terms of not eating meat, and the hardest part was needing for me to start researching the proper foods I needed, the nutrition that I needed, the proper vitamins and minerals I needed to supply myself with. And through a couple of years of that type of research is what kind of led me on this passion of healthy living.
Amazing. Yeah, you can't, I guess, just jump into being vegan. It takes a lot of knowledge, and I'm sure CSNN helped with that knowledge. Did they change the way that you ate as a vegan, or just maybe empowered you with more information to make better choices as a vegan?
A little bit of both. Definitely changed the way that I ate to provide me with a more whole foods diet, a proper balanced diet. And I learned more about food combinations, proper digestion. I learned more about vitamins and minerals, so what I was missing and what I may have needed more of. And some of these things I had read about on the internet, but with studying it in a textbook and writing tests, it was like, it was real, and I could believe that information a little bit more.
It's ingraining it into you. As soon as you're tested on it, then it's game on to really understand
So when I first became vegan, you know, I would still eat white bread, or I would still eat chips and you know, stuff like
still
that.
Vegan.
Like cereal that maybe necessarily wasn't healthy cereal, but it's still vegan. So once I started studying with the CSNN, that's when I really jumped on a whole foods diet.
Right, the healthy vegan diet, a plant-based diet.
Exactly, not potato chips and Oreos. And
hashtag vegan with Lay's
vegan
chips.
Junk food.
Yeah, vegan junk food. That is a thing.
And there's a lot of it. People would be surprised.
Oh my goodness, I agree with that. So just to let you guys know that are tuning in, we were able to answer any of your questions that you have throughout our live talk. So comment in the comment box below, and we'll do our best to answer those for you.
Try.
All right, so to kick things off, we're going to have a little bit of like a Rachel Ray episode here and do some cooking, because why not? We got an expert in the house. So Meagan, tell me about these nutritious balls that we are about to make.
Well, we are going to try, and we are going to make some little energy balls. They are going to be based with dried apricots, which are some of my favorite snacks. They're very high in iron, and myself, I have struggle keeping my iron up, so I'm always trying to find foods that are going to be helpful in that regard. Okay. So I use 1.5 cups of dried apricots, and we're going to add these here to the food processor.
All right. We got a bit of a height difference here. Okay. There we go. So some dried apricots.
We want 1.5 cups. We're not sure exactly how this is measured out, but it looks like about 1.5 cups. So I think it's all good to go in there.
Awesome. What do we got next?
And then the next thing would be, I think, 1/2 cup of raisins. And the raisins are going to add a lot of fiber to these balls. This might be a little bit more than 1.5 cups, so we'll just, or more than 1/2 cup. We'll just take a little bit.
Okay.
Next, we're going to add some almonds, 1/4 cup of almonds. Nice source of protein.
Even this could be a great snack, just some almonds and some raisins.
Yeah, that looks
apricots.
like a pretty good trail mix right there.
Yeah.
You just dice up
We'll
the
be talking
apricots.
about trail mix later, yeah.
And we want 1/4 cup of walnuts as well.
Those are good for your brain. Anything that's shaped like the brain, you just gotta believe it's good for your brain.
That's good. I never heard that line before.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the cerebral cortex on the outside.
Oh, there's the neuroscientist
Couple of gyri
coming
in it, yeah.
I like that though. I'm going to steal that. 1 tablespoon of flax seeds, which are again going to provide us with some good fatty acids.
I love flax seeds.
Again, we are kind of guessing on what a tablespoon is.
This is how I usually bake too.
It's
just a pinch of that.
Something along those lines. And a tablespoon of chia seeds.
Amazing.
These are all easy, common ingredients you can find at any grocery store, whether it's a fancy Whole Foods or your local Metro or IGA.
Or even Costco sometimes has it, yeah.
And most of these grocery stores have all of these in organic ingredients as well, which is what we always try to include. And a little bit of cinnamon. Cinnamon is a nice anti-inflammatory spice. So we're going to use 1 teaspoon of cinnamon.
Amazing.
Like that.
We don't even need to blend it. I think that looks beautiful. Well done.
Well, we're going to add some vanilla, just one teaspoon, but we're going to mix this first, and then we'll add the vanilla.
Okay.
I hope it mixes. Is that how it's locked? Is it locked?
I think it's one of these slide-in ones. There you go. I have a similar one at home.
And we want to pulse it until they're all mixed together. So sorry for the noise. you're going to see everything start to crumble down, and the dried apricots are what are going to hold the ball together.
Apricot glue.
Yes. Now let's see. We might need a little bit of wet hands in order to create our little ball.
All right. Wet hands and balls. Here we go.
Here, let's go like this. You can make a ball size of a golf ball.
I'm gonna get a ball.
You know, however you want. You can make it a golf ball. You can make it a tennis ball. Whatever you'd like.
I love making balls. I wish that we could call it something like different.
Different than just a ball.
Nutritious
an apricot circle.
Apricot circles. There we go. It's been coined.
And
I'm going to trademark on that. Wow, these.
What we can do is we can roll these in some coconut. The coconut itself is very helpful in absorbing calcium and magnesium, and it just kind of might make it look pretty.
These look fantastic. The apricot really works well in sticking everything together. We might have needed to shred
the coconut a little bit. It's a little bit thick, but you get the hint that we can wrap them around in there.
Amazing.
And then you can store them in your fridge in a little container and eat them for a couple of days. And the coconut could be shredded just a little bit so it sticks better, but either way, it tastes the same nutritional value. Very good for you. I like to keep a little handful or a bowl of these in the fridge or on the counter for me as a snack, or take them in my lunch in a little baggie.
Amazing.
I feel like I should wash my hands.
Thank you so much for showing us how to make those. I think I'll be making those later this week. It's always nice to have that 3 p.m. afternoon snack, something tasty.
You can probably make those with any sort of dried fruit, actually. I just prefer dried apricots.
Amazing. So besides these balls, is there any other go-to snack for you? Like your top 3 snacks that you won't leave the home without, especially if you're going to have a busy day of training or just being physically active?
Well, I snack a lot. I snack all day. One of the simple, most common snacks that I have multiple times a day is a banana. Good old-fashioned banana, high in potassium, lots of vitamins. I love a banana in between training sessions, after training, in my oats, which we'll talk about later.
Okay.
I also like creating little baggies of trail mix, making my own little trail mix baggies with whatever I've got around the house. Some of my favorites include putting dried cereal with goji berries and cacao nibs. Not cocoa, cacao nibs.
Those are good.
Very different. And they have a lot of magnesium, which I like to have for my muscles. And some pecans and walnuts and any raisins, craisins. You can kind of mix it up and make a little baggie and stuff it in your purse or in your car, and it's good to go for the day.
Trail mix, I think, is the most accessible food too, right? It doesn't melt in the car. It's not some weird chocolate protein bar. You can have it just about anywhere.
As long as you don't put like chunks of chocolate in it.
The chunks of chocolate do taste very good. Yeah, we'll have to consider that one. Okay, so we have a quick question for you from one of our listeners. So Rebecca wants to know, Meagan, how did you get so muscular on a vegan diet? She's checking you out. I was too. I was going to ask it. Do you take any, I shouldn't have worn a tank top. Do you take any protein, vegan protein supplements? So why are you so jacked, Meagan? How did this happen?
Well, you know, contrary to popular belief, many people want to know what protein supplements or powders I take. And I don't take any particular protein supplement or powder. Wow. But I mean, almost everything we just put in these balls is a high source of protein. And I'm eating protein pretty much all day long. It's just plant-based protein, whether it's from beans or quinoa or tofu, brown rice. There's protein in vegetables. Yeah. I eat chia seeds and flax seeds and almonds every single day, as well as quinoa. So I don't take any sort of protein supplement, but I am eating continuously protein type foods. And I think that a lot of my muscle strength, I guess, comes from training. I have spent all day training for almost 2 decades. That's my job.
We thought you were a personal chef this whole time. You've been training. That makes sense. Okay.
From being on the ice or in the gym, I do a lot of Pilates and yoga, and I think that that's also to credit.
Nice. Cross-training there as well. Amazing. Yeah. So for some other listeners at home, they may not be vegan. Do you have any other sources of protein that you suggest for someone that could eat meat? Is there a certain quality that you would recommend?
Well, I always suggest eating organic and free-range, organic, grass-fed. I mean, I would recommend chicken, turkey, eggs are a good source of protein as well, and definitely fish, salmon and halibut. You get some good fatty acids as well.
Those omega-3s, great for the brain. Okay.
I've lost my page.
It's okay. We have so many questions for you.
Where are we? I've lost it.
So we know that you've been skating for a long time. And of course, you have to have healthy nutrition for that. So when did you discover your passion for plant-based foods? Was that when you became vegan, or were you always eating almonds and nuts? Because I find it's a hard transition for someone to become a vegan. I tried it for a year, and it was definitely a tough transition. But I think you need to be already eating these foods, no? Were you always a very healthy eater going into 2008, you said it was?
No, I wasn't particularly a healthy eater.
Okay.
I ate what I thought was healthy, and I ate what I thought I could afford. I was eating on a very particular budget. But I think what happened was, over time, after I became vegan and I started studying, I started introducing these type of foods little by little by little, and then learning how to use them.
Right.
And it was like I could sprinkle some chia seeds on my toast with some almond butter, and then I realized that I can use chia seeds with water as an egg substitute in my baking. And so you started to learn about each thing as I kind of got on that vegan path. But I really dove in, like, I was eating Subway and Quiznos subs and making pasta and eating mini wheats almost every morning for breakfast. I wasn't eating a very healthy diet beforehand. And even at the beginning of being vegan, it wasn't the most whole foods diet. That was these are all things that I learned once I began studying.
And I'm sure being at CSNN, you learned probably a whole other wealth of knowledge about how to be a vegan eater.
Yes, and what all the vitamins and minerals in each food was giving me and able to provide me.
Absolutely. So we have another question from Juhi. Any good suggestions or tips for vegan keto diet?
You know what? This is the second time I've been asked this question, and I think I need to research it, because I don't have much opinion on the vegan keto diet, because I don't have much experience with it. But since this is like the second time somebody's asked me that in 2 weeks, I think it's time that I learn a little bit more about it.
Keto is trending right now. A lot of people are interested in like the higher fat diet, lower sugar, but yeah, I think a lot of research still needs to be made from my perspective on like the brain side of things. I know sugars are really good for our brain too, so making sure that if you are going keto, be sure of how keto you are going, and understanding how glucose and insulin affects your brain, I think, is also important.
And I think I come from a sport, figure skating, where we're trying to have the lowest amount of body fat possible. So we're trying to eat healthy fats, but we are trying to keep it very reduced and really influenced by carbs and little bits of protein. So for my sport and my lifestyle, that wasn't something that I was ever really introduced to or knew, like, research too much about.
But you're eating the healthy fats, which of course is so important. Okay. Sorry, I'm new on iPad land. I am technically challenged. Okay.
I can go to these meal examples.
Oh, meal examples. Okay, yeah, let's talk to me about some of these delicious meals that you take on the go.
Yes, I like to prepare a few things throughout the week, or on the weekend to have throughout the week, and some things that are very, very simple. We have examples of here. So something that could come of these chickpeas. This is a bowl of chickpeas. It's a really easy lunch or dinner option, where you can take a can of chickpeas or a bowl of chickpeas and take a potato masher, and you mash them to the consistency of tuna. And then you can kind of create any type of tuna-like salad you want, but from the chickpeas. And chickpeas are a great source of protein for people who eat plant-based diets, such as me. And although chickpeas are not a complete protein, they can be made complete when you combine them with a 100% whole grain wrap or bread. So something I really like to do is mash up these chickpeas, make my little chickpea tuna, and then I add in some red peppers and some kale. And that's providing some vitamin C, and which is helpful for us to absorb the iron from the chickpeas, because the non-hem iron that comes in chickpeas isn't as easily absorbed as animal-based iron. But by adding vitamin C, we're enhancing our iron absorption. So I mash that up, add in some red peppers. I take kale and I kind of like cut it. I wash it and cut it up with scissors. Some green onions.
That's interesting.
It makes it like smaller and easier to do.
So good. I spent an hour with a knife just trying to get it very fine. Scissoring kale. I like it.
Add some vegan mayonnaise. And then anything else you really want. I like putting lemon and dill and making it lemon and dill.
That's amazing.
I leave that type of like tuna salad in the fridge in a container, and I can use it to spread on a whole grain wrap or on bread, or just to eat it like that as a tuna salad. And it's a really good lunch or dinner option.
Amazing. That sounds so good. I'm getting hungrier by the minute. I'm almost afraid to ask what this is because I might also start growling with my stomach. Okay, what do we have here?
Well, this would be an overnight oats, which is something that I'd make for breakfast. And it's really, really easy. We start by mashing up some bananas and adding some chia seeds, oats, almond milk, and cinnamon. And you can really add anything you want. Sometimes I also add peanut butter and cacao nibs, and you mix it all together and keep that banana mashed so that you don't have any chunks. And then I just pour it into mason jars. I'll make about 3 or 4 of them and leave them in the fridge, and my husband and I can enjoy it for breakfast. And add toppings after it's made. Sometimes I add shredded coconut or walnuts or blueberries or something like that. So
many options, endless options. Okay, we do have a question that just came in. All right, Jasmine. That's a beautiful name, Jasmine. How do you maintain eating healthy while traveling? This is a good question. We were talking about this earlier. In particular, in situations where you do not have control over your food, like at the Olympics, I've seen your tweets. You're a tweeter, okay. So yeah, okay, let's talk, maybe there's 2 questions there. So first, let's talk about the Olympics. Obviously, huge experience. How do they feed you there? Do you bring all of your own chickpeas and overnight oats, or how does it work?
I brought everything to make overnight oats. So every day at the Olympics,
you did?
I did. I brought overnight oats, and I would go to the cafeteria with my little mason jar of overnight oats, and everybody would look at me so jealously, like, what are you eating that looks so good and nutritious?
I should have thought of that.
Yeah. I learned because at the last Olympics, I was very hungry for 3 weeks.
Oh, no.
We're fed in a cafeteria, and they try to provide the best food and nutritional quality that the local organizing committee can.
Okay.
But included in this cafeteria is a free 24-hour McDonald's and Coca-Cola vendor. So the athletes are given free access to. That's what our cafeteria is filled with.
That's tough.
And not only vegan, but I don't really find that's very healthy and athlete friendly.
Totally.
So
maybe after you're out of the Olympics and you want to, cry over a cheeseburger, that could be
that could be
helpful,
something.
But,
So I had to kind of like go around and be creative and make things. So I came prepared with my overnight oats. What I also did, which was a little bit of a trial, is at the Olympics 4 years ago, I realized that there was no whole grains. There was just white rice, white pasta, and white bread. So I brought this year to Korea little packages of quinoa and brown rice. And I thought I'm just going to make them on a stovetop because we stay in like an apartment. So I thought I'd have a kitchen kind of like this.
Yeah.
But the kitchen was still under renovation. We just had the bedrooms and the living room. So I didn't have a stovetop. So I got a kettle, and I learned how to make quinoa and brown rice and couscous in a kettle. And it was really, really hard, but I managed to do that. I managed to eat my whole grains.
Amazing.
I burned it sometimes when the kettle was boiling, but it was a good learning experience. And so now I know that if you're ever stuck, you can bring your little bag of quinoa and you can make it in a kettle.
Wow.
And then I would take my little container of quinoa that I made in my room in a kettle. I'd bring it to the cafeteria and kind of top it with the vegetables that were around.
Wow. So not only are you focusing on winning a gold medal, she's making her own food in a kettle, ladies and gentlemen. And that's
not
how you
ideally,
win a gold medal. Amazing. Okay, we have another question coming in from Christina. Are there any foods that are good for post-injuries or foods that help with concussion to address the increase of calcium and glutamate in the brain? Is this a question for me or is this a question for Meagan? Amazing. Okay, so foods post-injury. Let's just talk about injuries in general. So you're out of the game, you hurt your ankle, your knee. What do you eat?
Yeah, I'm, first of all, very, very lucky that I have never been out of the game with an injury.
Wow.
I'd say knock on wood, but I'm no longer competing. So I survived my entire career without having a serious injury and without ever withdrawing from any event because of an injury. And I think that's very rare at this point in
100%.
in somebody's career. And I really credit that to a whole foods diet. I was really careful with what I was putting into my body and when, eating the proper foods for recovery so that my body would be able to train well the next day. And also I was careful with balancing the type of training I was doing. I was balancing my strength and conditioning training with yoga and with Pilates and, creating a good balance and maintenance of my body. So
not just one thing over and over again. You're finding other ways to use your other muscles so you're staying safe.
But through experience, through people that I knew that were trying to eat well to heal an injured body, a few things that I learned as one of my friends broke her leg and was trying to come back from that was including a lot of dark leafy greens and taking out dairy. That was one of the main things in order to help the bone heal. That was 2 things that were recommended to her.
Interesting. I would not
But I have to say, again, I'm very lucky that I never experienced any type of injury that I had to really focus on that myself to recover from.
Amazing.
But since you are a neuroscientist, and I've never had a concussion, so maybe you can credit that.
Well, I did my thesis in concussion, so shocking. I don't know if Christina knows who I am, or if I know Christina. It's probably my mom. It's probably my mom, Christina. So with a concussion, there is a metabolic demand in your brain that is much greater than it is at any other point in your life. So when you work out, your brain eats a lot of glucose, and especially when you're concussed, your brain is using so much energy. When I get a concussion, I've had 4, I tend to lose a lot of weight because I'm just not eating enough for the demand of my brain. So a big thing is making sure that you're eating. Sometimes you're not feeling good, but if you're getting like a good whole foods diet, that's important for your brain.
And hydrating.
And hydrating, 100%. Sometimes you can forget if you have a concussion. Again, your cognitive function can be a little bit off, but it's good to have hydration, lots of good food. And my second thing would be have antioxidants and fatty acids. Those are the best things for your brain.
I think it's important, the hydration, because if you have a concussion and you're out, or you're injured and you're out of the game, you're not training as much and sweating, so you don't feel like you need to replenish your fuels.
Totally.
And you still do, because you need that water and you need that fluid. Not just when you're on the field sweating, but when you're trying to recover.
Totally. I think that's really important. People that work in offices, if you're not training full time, sometimes you forget you don't have that thirst unless you're really exerting yourself. But I definitely noticed that. I used to play, again, beach volleyball. When you're in the sun, you always want to drink water, but as soon as you're at work and you're sitting down, it's like, why would I drink water? I didn't work out.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, one more question here from Nikita. How do you manage meal preps and training and studying at the same time? How are you so good at what you do? Is what she really wants to know.
Oh, time management is very, very important. And I take a lot of pride in taking care of my body. And one of the reasons that I think I was able to achieve such success in skating and stay healthy, like I was saying, at the same time without any injuries, was because I put such a focus on eating a healthy, whole foods, plant-based diet. And I knew that that was a key, not only to keeping my body healthy, but keeping my mind healthy, for me to stay focused and concentrated every day at training, and that I never went through a phase where I lost my focus or I lost my concentration, because in the sport that I do, it's very dangerous and you need to avoid that. So I think basically I needed to. I had no choice. If I wanted to maintain the level of sport I wanted to achieve, I had to plan my meals properly. And luckily, the meal examples I gave you, I mean, that could be a lunch and a breakfast for 3 days. Could be really, really easy to prepare. And studying, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading different things, learning new information, learning about new foods. I mean, believe it or not, this is kind of embarrassing, but before I started really studying nutrition, I never ate an avocado. Like, I didn't even know what an avocado was in, like, 2009. That's embarrassing.
They weren't trending then,
I'm ashamed. Avocados weren't trending, but I didn't know about this, like, amazing superfood that's an amazing fatty acid filled with healthy fats. And I didn't know, like, the versatility that an avocado could bring, all the things you could make. You can make chocolate cake with avocados. You could put it on toast. You can make guacamole. Like, it's 100%. Endless. And
you can sell that toast for $12. It's great. It's fantastic. It's a money-making machine.
So I think as I was studying and learning things, I was taking that and applying it to my training and to myself and to my life. And that's what made me feel so engaged and that I wanted to learn and study. And
when you want to learn something, it's that much easier to remember it. If you care, you'll get it done.
Exactly.
Way to do that. Okay, more questions coming in. Nicole, she's a new vegan and she's trying to figure out her meals each day. Can you give us some examples of daily meals?
That's a really good idea.
Well, we did talk about 2 delicious meals. So you talked about your chickpea mash one, which sounds phenomenal, by the way, with the scissors and the kale. I'm still mind blown about that. Your overnight oats were amazing. Is there any other favorite meal you'd like to talk about? Yeah,
I mean, I have a few, definitely. Something else that I really like to start my morning with, whether it's the weekend and I'm not training or I am training, is a green power smoothie. And, you know, the smoothie can vary, but some of the things that I like to include in it would be 2 handfuls of greens. I prefer spinach and kale, but you can also use Swiss chard as well. Nice. And then I like to choose 2 different fruits. Sometimes strawberries and raspberries. Sometimes I went with mango and banana. Sometimes it was pineapple and mango.
This all sounds so good. We just gotta like bottle you up. Yeah.
2 servings of 2 different fruits, and I would use a base of either almond milk or coconut milk, or coconut water, depending on your preference, or a dairy milk if that's what you prefer. And then I add half a tablespoon of chia seeds. These little brown guys right here. You could our black light guys. You could also add flax or hemp seeds as well. I would prefer to use chia seeds. And then I add a tablespoon of a nut butter, and mix it all together. And that's like that could be my morning meal, my green smoothie on the go.
It's
Sometimes I add some spirulina powder for some protein, and that's it. That's a really great idea. You can add some oats if you want to make it a little bit thicker. So that's a really good go-to breakfast that can also be prepared the night before and left in the fridge. Just shake it up before you drink it. One of my favorite like simple snack options as well that I hadn't talked about is like a whole grain tortilla wrap, and I spread some nut butter on it, and I sprinkle it with chia seeds and hemp seeds, and then I put a banana in it or slices of apple and just roll it up.
Oh, that sounds
it's like
good.
A little fruit wrap with some nut butter and some seeds. And that's a really good lunch option or to-go option. And there's so many casseroles that you can make with chickpeas or with quinoa or brown rice and vegetables at dinner time, stir fries. Also trying to stay with our whole grains, our brown rice, our brown couscous, our quinoa. Quinoa is a complete protein, so I try really hard to include that every single day in one of my meals.
Wow. You know it all. Yeah, so many recipes.
You can visit my website, lotsofgreens.com, and I have a really great chickpea casserole recipe on that, and that's a really great option as well that you can serve for yourself or your family.
I think we're just waiting for the cookbook to come out. This sounds phenomenal. One question back to your meal prep. Is there anything that you like to eat specifically before or after training?
I do. I mean, I train in the mornings usually.
Okay.
So for me, that came in very handy at the Olympics, so that the time I was most nourished was after eating my overnight oats, and that's when I had to go to compete. So that the timing worked out very, very well. But generally, before I would go to train or before I would go to compete, because I try to eat the same thing, whether I'm competing or training, try to keep it the same. Overnight oats or a bowl of oatmeal, but adding some seeds, adding some berries.
Yeah.
Green smoothie. Sometimes I put toast with some almond butter and sprinkle on some hemp seeds or chia seeds on top of that.
You love the sprinkle of hemp and chia. I could just see like a meme of her just like sprinkling on everything.
On each
Pixie
of my
dust,
meals.
yeah.
I need those essential fatty acids and the proteins and the fiber. Or toast with avocado. I love toast with avocado.
Who doesn't love avocado toast these days? Yeah.
A little bit of turmeric. And
everything's sprinkled. Do you ever just like throw it on, or is it always the sprinkle?
Well,
just
if I'm taking
gentle
a picture of it, I kind of sprinkle it. But then
the photo.
if I'm just devouring it, I'm just like, and I just throw it on.
Instagram versus reality. It's just nothing looks the same.
One of my favorite recovery foods, though, actually, is pineapples with hemp seeds. So I sprinkle
a little sprinkle of hemp seeds.
I made a little note of my favorite recovery stuff here.
Cool. Let's go through it.
Even though I know it's my pineapple and my hemp seeds. That is one of my favorite ones. Pineapple is filled with a nutrient called bromelain, and that helps break down our proteins and aids in digestion and reduces swelling. So it's really good for us to have after any type of training. It also helps with our circulation. And the hemp seeds sprinkled on there are an anti-inflammatory protein, and they're going to help with our muscle fatigue and also give us some magnesium and some iron. And I really, really like that. It's simple. You just sprinkle on your hemp seeds and it sticks to your pineapple, and it's a great, great recovery. I also like having pumpkin seeds. A handful, 2 handfuls sometimes of pumpkin seeds after training. They're a great protein and very high in iron as well.
It's nice at Halloween time too when you're going to make your own pumpkin seeds. I think nothing tastes as good as a fresh pumpkin seed like that. Amazing.
A good idea actually is making your own pumpkin seeds, but sprinkling a little bit of cinnamon. Because the cinnamon is a really good anti-inflammatory spice. And I just had to throw in that you could sprinkle something again. I'll try not to use the word sprinkle again.
That's okay. I love it. We did have one more question that came in. Can't remember who asked it. It is Annika, or Anik. I apologize, Anik. So she wants to know, how much water daily would you recommend? So we were talking about water, then we went on a tangent about how many amazing meals you know how to make, but water, what do you recommend?
Well, it depends on how much physical activity you're doing, how much you're sweating. I try to drink about 8 containers of water every single day, and that varies between coconut water and just regular water, or water with lemon, hot water with lemon in the morning. When I'm training, I'm in a cold ice rink, so I'm not sweating that much, so I'm not losing that much sodium and electrolytes. So for my sport, I feel like I don't need to fuel myself with as much water as somebody like you who might have been training in the sun and sweating so much. You need to replenish more. And sometimes when you're sweating a lot because you're training outside, it's a good idea to add a little bit of salt to your water just to replenish your sodium.
Absolutely. I always did a bit of salt, a bit of lemon.
Yeah. And I also like coconut water. It's a really good alternative, and it's a really good electrolyte and potassium that's going to help our bodies recover as well and bring that fluid back.
Cool. So you mentioned earlier, which I love, that your dad recommended 2 big glasses of whole milk every day. I feel like times are changing a bit. I know I personally have almond milk, coconut milk in my fridge. Do you think that this has the same sort of nutritious value for athletes that are recovering, and what would you recommend?
Well, you know, over time, I think anybody who's been involved in sports or seen a sports nutritionist, one of the foods that they always recommend to us for recovery is chocolate milk. The scientific breakdown of chocolate milk provides the perfect combination for the recovery process. And I do enjoy chocolate milk. I just enjoy a different version of chocolate milk. And I like a version of chocolate milk that's made with a pea protein. And it provides a lot of calcium for us. And it also has good, clean sugars. And that's what I really like as an alternative to a dairy milk. And I'll have that not on a regular basis after training, but you know, I try to switch up my recovery snacks and my recovery tools depending on what training session I had. And that dark chocolate pea milk, pea protein milk is a really good option if you want to alternate from the chocolate milk that's made from dairy.
Amazing. I'm learning just as much as anyone else who's watching right now. Okay, talking about supplements. Do you take any supplements, whether it's for your physical or mental well-being, and which ones do you take if you do?
Yeah, I do take vitamin B12 because as a vegan, there's no food that's providing me, not really any plant-based foods that are providing me with that nutrient. So I take my vitamin B12 and I take an iron supplement as well because my body, or anybody's body who's following a plant-based diet, they're not going to absorb the iron from the food that they eat from plants as well as you would absorb it from animals. Like we talked about before, combining the vitamin C with plant-based foods helps us absorb that iron a little bit better. I also take vitamin C every day, omega-3 fatty acids, and vitamin D. And I take a calcium and magnesium to help strengthen my muscles and my bones. And another supplement that's really good for athletes is zinc. It's important for rebuilding the tissue after training and after exercise. And it's not something I particularly have taken, but it is something that I would recommend for people to either take on its own or have included in a multivitamin.
Cool. Do you take your supplements at a certain time of the day? Like everything in the morning? I know my dad would have a handful of supplements and he can just gulp it back, and my mom would do like one at a time because it's so hard. Do you space them out, or do you always have your magnesium before bed, omega-3 fatty acid in the morning, or what's your plan?
Well, I try to like balance things. I mean, of course, I want to focus on food first, supplements second. I want to make sure that I'm getting as much as I can from my food. But I do understand that I'm not getting vitamin B12 from my food. But in the morning, on an empty stomach is when I take my iron supplement. And I have both a prescription iron pill and a natural liquid iron vitamin that I combine together. And then I actually put my omega fatty acids in my smoothies, if I'm making smoothie, or in my overnight oats. I just put my little teaspoon in there.
Oh, so you have the liquid form of omega-3s. Yeah. Amazing.
And it's easy, and I make sure that I remember to take it when I'm having that. And if I'm out of my omega-3, I just add flax oil. Nice. Flax oil to my smoothie, or a little bit of flax oil to my overnight oats, or to a juice or something like that I'm having. My calcium and magnesium are always at night.
Okay.
And sometimes I even use a magnesium spray if my legs are particularly sore from training.
Cool.
I use magnesium spray, or of course, Epsom salts in the bath, which are high in magnesium.
Amazing. Very
There's
cool.
these new things. I don't know, these magnesium sprays and oils.
Just to like calm people down. I want to like spray it on my mother when she's just, you know.
Or when you get a muscle cramp.
A muscle cramp or spasm.
It's supposed to help with that too.
Oh, it's awesome. So Meagan clearly has a lot of energy as I'm like drifting off into like my late night slumber. I'll be falling asleep probably by 10 p.m. tonight. Meagan, looks like you could go do a track workout. So how do you have so much energy? Are you drinking tons of coffee, taking supplements, sports drinks? What is your way of harvesting this much energy?
That's a good question. I mean, I do drink a lot of coffee. I do enjoy coffee. It's like my one vice.
Coffee's good for you.
It
It's
is
great
good
for your brain.
I have no desire to stop drinking coffee. I enjoy coffee, but I try to have like maybe just 2 or 3 cups a day.
Yep.
2, if possible. But sometimes I take
2, 3, 7.
I think that my energy really just comes from eating a well-balanced whole foods diet and taking care of myself on every level with my lifestyle. You know, I do yoga and I meditate every single day. I spend a lot of time outside, walking my dogs and doing things that I love. And that kind of, I feel like when you do things that you love, like you become infused with passion, and that becomes energy. And I think that that's just the way I've lived my life.
100%.
And I sleep. Sleep is so important, to sleep well.
I agree with that. I love sleeping. My partner who's watching now is like, yes, she sleeps so much.
Sleep is very important. It's underrated. It really is underrated.
It really is. Do you take any sort of caffeine before you go on the ice? Like, do you need a stimulant or do you need to calm down? Like, what is your pre-ice sort of routine in terms of energy balance, aside from food?
Usually I'm pretty high-strung before I have to go on the ice. Like, I'm a very high-strung person, and I benefit more from a meditative process to calm me down than taking caffeine to stimulate my central nervous system.
Right, so no coffee.
Caffeine will do. It will give you a stimulant, but I prefer to try to quiet my mind through meditation instead of providing me with even more amped up energy.
Yeah, I'm sure you're getting that from the crowd and how many people are watching you.
Yeah, and by meditating, it gives me that time to like zone in and come into myself, and I feel more centered and more balanced and more aware of what I need to do as opposed to what's going on around me.
Amazing. That's good advice just for life in general. Okay, we have a question from someone in our audience. Amir, how many of your fellow athletes have you convinced to go vegan?
Oh, sadly, not many.
Are you trying to convince athletes on your team to go vegan? Are you like an advocate for vegan plant-based diets, or what is your stance on it? The quiet vegan or more of the encouraging vegan?
Well, I want to share with people how a plant-based diet has enriched my life.
Totally.
Because it has changed my life. Not just being a vegan, because it's very easy to be a vegan and eat junk food. And I just want to be sure that people understand the whole foods approach that I take to my plant-based diet. I try not to push it on people. If people want to hear about it, I'll tell them about it. Generally, when I go to an event and I bring my own food, people want to eat my food, and they're like, "Oh my God, what is that? That looks so good."
I can tell why, yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, this is what vegans eat. You know, we don't all just eat nuts and seeds and birdseed."
Yeah.
So I think that the stigma is changing a little bit, and more people are interested in adopting a vegan and a vegetarian diet. And I've read a lot of research on professional athletes in the NHL and the NFL that have actually started following vegan and vegetarian diets and noticing a great improvement in their recovery and their injury prevention.
Amazing. So for other people in the audience that maybe aren't a professional athlete or in the sporting fitness buff community, what are some things that you would recommend just for lifestyle tips from going from perhaps an unhealthy, stressful diet to just getting into the health world? There's a lot of things. There's chia seeds, there's nuts, there's almonds. What's a few good tips just to get into the market?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that it's really important that athletes and non-athletes alone, their diets should be the same. It's just that athletes need more of certain foods, but it should be that everybody's eating these healthy food alternatives, and not just stuff like this, but lots of salmon, lots of fish, whole grains, dark leafy greens. This is good for everybody, but I'd say that you just need to make sure that you're taking it step by step if you're jumping in. You don't want to be overwhelmed by going into a grocery store and being like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm supposed to buy.
Yeah.
So maybe starting with something simple, like sprinkling some chia seeds onto your toast or your oatmeal or something.
Yeah.
That could be a start, and then you have introduced yourself to chia seeds. And I remember trying to, I gave goji berries to my grandma once, and I was like, yeah, it's going to help you with your circulation, and you need to start eating goji berries. And she was like, I don't know what to do with these. She was so overwhelmed. And they just sat in a bag in her fridge for like a year. And she was like, well, I don't know what to use them for. And then if I use them, they're too expensive. And I have to buy them again. And they're so expensive.
Yeah.
So I think picking one thing, like one superfood, I guess you can say, and experimenting with it, getting comfortable with how to use it, and then introduce another one. Yeah. And then easily swapping out things like white rice for brown rice. Very, very easy. You won't even taste the difference. Or white rice for quinoa. Stuff like that.
Simple things.
Yeah, simple transitions to get the ball rolling.
And I'm sure it's helpful just to have some of these things on hand. I know when you read a recipe and it's like you need X, Y, and Z, and now you have a big grocery list and bill in front of you.
Yes.
What are some things that are staples besides the sprinkling of things? Well, I'm sure we'll talk about those. So if we open up Meagan's cupboard, what are the jars, spices? What are your go-to, almost in every meal type of thing?
Well, I always have quinoa. Quinoa and brown rice are always in the cupboard. There's usually quinoa made in the fridge to be used for something, whether it's a breakfast dish or lunch or dinner. Quinoa is very versatile. Nut butters, pumpkin seed butter, almond butter, crunchy peanut butter, because that's the one that my husband likes.
The crunch is nice. It adds a whole different dimension. I agree with the crunchy.
Oatmeal, oats, just a bag of oats that you can use for overnight oats or hot oats, or sometimes you can make energy balls with oats. Dried fruit like apricots, that's something else that's a big staple. Almond milk, coconut milk, yogurt alternatives, coconut yogurt. And
coconut yogurt, I haven't heard that one. That sounds awesome.
Dark leafy greens. Dark leafy greens every single day. I try to eat spinach and kale.
Spinach and kale. Any other spices that you like? You talked about cinnamon, turmeric.
Yes,
turmeric, very anti-inflammatory.
Like I'm boring with spices. I don't
think
dabble in the spices that much. I'm a little bit boring in that regard. I tend to use the same ones all the time. Yeah. I like just some fresh lemon and dill. Dill is one of my favorites. And just salt and pepper, really.
Cool. Well, it sounds like you're reusing a lot of the same ingredients. So once you have a cupboard full of these things, it's a little bit more approachable, whether it's a plant-based diet or just healthy living in general. Yeah, even if you have salmon in the fridge or you have your coconut yogurt, it sounds like it's very accessible. All right, we have a question as well coming in. So Nicole wants to know, do you eat much tofu?
That's a good question. Yes, I do eat tofu. I don't eat it every single day, but I do eat tofu maybe once or twice a week. And I like to experiment with different types of tofu. One of my favorite dishes, which you can find this recipe on my blog on Lots of Greens, is a marinated tofu stick sprinkled in sesame seeds. Sprinkled in sesame seeds, and then I make a peanut butter tahini dip.
Ooh.
So I dice up the tofu, I marinate it, and then I sprinkle it with sesame seeds and bake it in the oven, and then I dip it in a peanut butter tahini dip. And it is very, very good. And it's a very good side for any type of meal, dinner. And it's good for vegans and non-vegans alike. A lot of people like that.
That's a good potluck one. When you have like the awkward office party and you bring in like the fancy tofu, I'd be your best friend all night, just dipping it into the tahini there.
Or putting tofu sometimes on the barbecue in the summer. Or just dicing it up into tofu. Or into salads. Dicing up the tofu into salads, is a really good option as well.
So you sometimes cook it, do you eat it raw as well, or?
Not necessarily, but I do make a really good vegan cheesecake with tofu.
Ooh.
It's based with tofu that you blend.
Okay.
Yeah, soft tofu, and it's really good.
Very cool. We gotta go on this blog. It sounds amazing. Paulina has a question. Would you recommend any herbs or spices to add to our veggies? So I guess we talked a little bit about spices there.
Yeah, I mean, you can add really anything that you want. I mean, I'm boring. I like salt and pepper. Dill, sage. Sage is really, really good spice. Dill, parsley. Trying to get my mind going to spices.
I love curries.
Curry's good.
Anything that stains has to have something powerful in it. That's sort of my method to my madness.
And you can put turmeric in curries as well, which is really, really good.
All the yellows. Amazing. Okay, so one more question coming in here. Andrea. Oh, she addresses you. Meagan.
Oh, hi, Andrea.
Love your authenticity and especially your transparency on coffee. Your energy is awesome and love to hear your point of view. It's not even a question, it's a comment. I like
thank you. That's so nice of you.
That's amazing.
Thanks for joining in, Andrea.
Okay, I have one more question for you here. Oh,
yeah.
Again, sorry guys, a little bit slow.
What did we talk about that we had in my notes?
Okay. So athletic performance, we're going to go back to talking about being an athlete. Is there any food that you find if you had this just from personal experience that you're not going to perform well? You know, you ate 17 bananas because you loved it so much, you're not going to perform well. Or is there certain foods that you have to avoid, whether it's for like your gut, nerves, digestion, however that works for you?
Well, I mean, everything in moderation, so we want to be careful.
No 17 bananas, yeah.
Of course, something that in particular would really hinder my performance is eating like a ginormous meal before I have to go on the ice to compete. At my sport takes 4 minutes, you know, in a competition. But also avoiding unhealthy fats, like trans fats and saturated fats. I don't want to go eat processed piece of cake and all this, like a burger and everything that's made with these trans fats and saturated fats. I want to avoid that before I'm going on the ice. And I also want to avoid anything that's going to cause bloating. And although I don't follow a gluten-free diet, I do try to not eat anything with gluten the morning I'm competing or even the night before, because I want to avoid any type of irritation in my digestive system.
Interesting. Do you find you get irritation normally, or it's just something you want to at all costs?
I just don't want it to happen. And I know, like, when you get a lot of stress, your body starts to go through different symptoms, and I'm just trying to avoid that at all costs. But it does become a little bit difficult when you're traveling and you're limited to the food that they have in the cafeteria, but I try to come prepared.
So when you're not at the Olympics, if you're traveling at any other competition, have you ever had a very difficult time trying to find vegan food when you're in China or Switzerland or wherever you're skating?
Something that I really like is this tool called happycow.com. I can find a vegan restaurant anywhere in the world. I kid you not. I was in Africa, in Tanzania, and I found vegan restaurants there.
Wow.
And it's really, really great, not only for finding vegan restaurants, but it will also give me a list of health food stores. So any type of organic health food store.
Okay.
So I can go and see, okay, it's 5 kilometers from the hotel. I can jump in and be at that market, that organic market in Beijing in 15 minutes, and load up on some groceries that I could use throughout the week.
Amazing.
Yes, that's
what a great tool.
That's actually been a lifesaver.
That definitely sounds like it. Okay. I think we have one more question coming in. Shelby. Hey, Shelby. How far in advance do you eat before training?
Yes, that's a very good idea. Generally 2 hours before I train or compete is when I would choose to eat my overnight oats or eat a bowl of oatmeal or toast or smoothie or something like that. But then in between training sessions, I do enjoy having light snacks. Apples. Sometimes apples with nut butter, some crackers, some bananas, coconut yogurt, little trail mixes, these little energy balls, but just little bits in between my training sessions, enough to keep me fueled, but not enough to make me feel like full and immobile.
Yeah, totally. You say you train in the morning, so how early do you wake up to then eat your meal? So then it's 2 hours, or is it in the morning you eat a little bit less?
So what I do is, in the morning is when I would train, and I usually wake up and I like to have my hot lemon water, and then when I walk my dogs, and then I have my hot lemon water, and then I enjoy my coffee because I love my coffee. I let that coffee sit before I start to eat. So I try to do everything, like I try to separate that process, so I'm not putting too much into my digestive system all at once. And then I wake up pretty early. I wake up about 3 hours before I need to go to training.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty early, but it's worth it. On mornings that I might be having a big smoothie, I might eat that maybe just 1 hour or 30 minutes before I'm going to train, and that would generally be on a lighter training day that I would choose a smoothie before going to train.
Amazing. Okay, I think we have one more question coming in. Larissa, how has switching to a plant-based diet changed your body and mind as an athlete?
Oh, good question. I think I had like a response ready for that too. But switching to a plant-based diet, it really changed my life, like on every level. But as an athlete, it gave me a better ability to focus and stay concentrated for longer periods of time. I felt like I was drifting less and less out of where I needed to be. I was able to focus in competition and focus in training. And also your training is better when you feel more energized and you're sleeping better. And my energy and my sleep both improved when I started following a plant-based diet as well. And starting to follow a plant-based diet introduced me to all this nutritious food that helped fuel my body. And I think that was a really big key.
When you limit your options, you have to become more aware of what you're eating, put more research and time into it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, do we have any more questions out there that we can answer for you guys?
Thanks everybody that joined in and asked questions.
Yeah, okay, I guess
Thanks for hosting me.
Of course. Welcome to my beautiful kitchen. So I guess we'll wrap things up. I just want to say thanks so much to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition for having us in today. And of course to our superstar Meagan for flying in and speaking to you guys about all the amazing information she knows about nutrition. And again, this isn't just for athletes, it's for anyone that just wants to increase their energy, their vitality, and just have a healthy overall balanced lifestyle.
Yes.
So thanks for all the interesting foods and tips. And if any of your questions were not answered today, please feel free to send a direct message to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition and someone will follow up with you with some professional advice. So that's it for tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. So,
yeah.